My last video with the Lightning going viral, towing it, it got shared on a website that I never thought I would see my face in.
It's an absolute total disaster. He's towing a light payload, a little old Ford truck that I guarantee has 5 times the power of that new Ford truck, and it won't go past 20-something miles an hour. I mean, this is a disaster. This is a joke. Who on earth would put something like this out?
Welcome to Hoovie's Garage, the dumbest automotive channel in all of YouTube, and I'm hiding behind my Ford Lightning pickup truck because I have created quite a stir. Now, about every YouTuber's dream is to have a video that goes viral, and I have been very lucky to have several viral videos that go well beyond the reach of my normal subscriber base, that get shared on media, and I see new people coming in, new commenters, and my channel grows. I create a topic of discussion. But in this instance, with my last video with the Lightning going viral, towing it, it was not a fun experience. Now, for those of you that have somehow found this video but not the previous one, well, I'll summarize. I took this Lightning out, got my light aluminum trailer, 1,400 pounds, and towed a small load with it. I went up empty to the Car Wizards, about 32 miles, picked up a Ford Model A pickup totaling about 2,000 pounds with the trailer about 3,500 pounds max, towed it back, and in that short period of about 64 miles round trip, I used about 150 miles of range, which this thing had about a 200-mile charge when I started, so it had the low range on by the time I got to my driveway. Towing was very, very limited on this thing in that set of circumstances where I went the speed limit, which was 65 to 75 the entire time. The trailer, well, somebody pointed out in the previous video that had a slight upward slant to it because I didn't use a lower hitch. I used the hitch for my van, so that was pushing the air, less aerodynamic, and of course the Ford Model A isn't that aerodynamic of a load, so it was really absolutely awful. And I highlighted that in the video, calling it a complete and total disaster and a complete joke, and I didn't realize sensationalizing that for views and clicking, well, would take it to places that I never imagined. So the Lightning video did get shared everywhere, but it took 3 or 4 days for it to really pick up, and that's when it got shared by Breitbart, a right-leaning, well, I shouldn't say leaning, it is a very, very conservative news website that has had a lot of controversy over the years, but in my case, they got their facts totally straight. Of course, then they put their political spin on it. Yes, very, very limited range on this thing, towing, not very practical, towing a heavy load at normal speeds in adverse conditions, but of course they're going to use that to attack the governors of California and New York for mandating this new law where they're going to ban gasoline cars, the new sales at least of them, by 2035, which they certainly have a point. If you're buying this for a truck, you plan to use it as a truck, how? How are you going to be a landscaper or a plumber driving around all day from place to place, especially with a heavy load and the battery doesn't last? Versus a gasoline truck, you can stop and fill up in 5 minutes, and it isn't double or triple worse the range when you tow. My van, for reference, with the same load, same trailer, it can last about 3 hours driving a heavy load, and then I fill it up in 5 minutes and I am good to go. Or this is, well, less than half that, and you're stuck waiting if you can find a fast charger. Now, obviously, the charging infrastructure is something that's going to be rapidly improved by 2035, but still, it's difficult to imagine. I mean, they would be gas stations the size of Buc-ee's in Texas, if you've been there, you know, where people are sitting and waiting 30 or 45 minutes to charge. It's not like normal gas stations where people are in and out, so you'll be parked for a very long time. The amount of plugs you would need on a big interstate stop would just be absolutely massive. So how do they figure that out? How are they going to make these things charge quicker and last longer in a longer range? And I know people say, well, the same thing was said about the car over 100 years ago. How is it going to be practical compared to the horse? They can walk all day, the car, it breaks down and all that stuff. Well, we haven't seen a huge advancement in batteries like we've seen over the past 10 or 20 years with computers. We still have lithium-ion batteries and then nickel-metal batteries. Those are the two. That's it as far as I know. Nobody's making a big advancement in those. It's still the same thing. A little bunch of hundreds and thousands of cells packed in rows and rows, and those cells fail, and they're very, very expensive to replace. Most people aren't rebuilding them, they're just replacing them, which is super impractical. In my own personal experience, I had a Tesla battery fail, a very early Tesla, after 10 years
just out of warranty, and it was going to be $16,000 to $20,000 to replace, but thankfully there are rebuilders out there. Same with the Toyota Prius. I had a 2005 Toyota Prius. That battery failed, would have totaled out the car, but somebody is reusing the used panels. It's little panes of the nickel acid batteries. $1,200 or so to fix that. So that's where we are. There hasn't been a massive advancement like dial-up internet going to now with fiber and everything we have, and YouTubers making millions playing video games on the internet. We haven't had that level of massive advancement yet, but maybe we will. Will we have it by 2035? Well, that remains to be seen. So I certainly get the criticism and the argument of mandating. It seems, well, pretty challenging to do it in such a short period of time. So Breitbart had their article, then Hannity had his own article on it, both of them sort of saying the same things, more or less accurate, but their own political spin. And then it got shared on a website that I never thought I would see my face in. And this is where it got bad.
It's an absolute total disaster.
InfoWars. Alex Jones, the king of conspiracy theorists, not only shared an article on the InfoWars website, but he also reacted to my video in real time on his daily show. And, well...
Here is a clip of a popular YouTube channel that does towing tests with pickup trucks. And, of course, a Ford Ranger would do 10 times the job that the new Ford Lightning EV pickup did because it has no torque, which is the whole point of a pickup truck. We're not going to play much of it, but here is the towing disaster.
Okay, so he is referring to me as the guy who does towing tests, which I'm not a YouTuber known for towing tests. And then he says the Ford Lightning has no torque. That's all this thing has is torque. It'll pin you back to your seats. It's absolutely insane how much torque this truck has. Has nothing to do with why the video towing with it was a disaster, but anyway.
That's almost 90 miles of range in 30 miles? Are you serious?
He basically starts playing my video, which he plays it for a very, very long time. I'm surprised the producer doesn't clip things down. Or I do
It's the dumbest automotive channel in all of YouTube, and this is
my whole
new
intro.
2023 Ford F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck, and it is towing my new
He's watching this
1930
real time.
Model A pickup truck that I bought for my show Car Issues on Motor Trend. Now, I towed with the Model A today quite a distance, and it was a complete and
I do certainly appreciate the plug for Car Issues on Motor Trend. That was great.
video out of order because
But anyway, he lets me go for too long.
So he goes over the whole truck for like 5 minutes, and then he goes out, and he can't get the car above 25 miles an hour. I'm going to say that again. He's towing a light payload, a little old Ford truck that I guarantee has 5 times the power of that new Ford truck, and it won't go past 20-something miles an hour. I mean, this is a disaster. This is a joke. Who on earth would put something like this out? Because, again, it's not meant to replace things. It's meant to make you think they're replacing the coal power plants and the cars and the rest of it.
Did you hear that? Oh. He says he watched the video. He says I can't go over 20 miles per hour towing a light load, which obviously I could go 120 miles an hour if I wanted to in this thing. The point was it lacked range. I mean, it is complete, downright misinformation. Basically, he's reacting to what he's seeing on the screen real time, whether it's right or not, whether it's satire, we don't know. But the thing is, people believe every word this man says, and so they believe that I couldn't go over 20 miles per hour in this thing, and that was the big issue. It's a total joke, and EVs are a joke. They're a big lie to make you think we don't need coal and gasoline anymore, but what? I mean, he keeps going. It's
Cars
wild.
and the rest of it, when they're not doing that, ladies and gentlemen. Is there any point even showing this? The full video's on Infowars.com.
Any point in showing my
12 and a
video?
half minutes long. Can't get the car up past 20-something miles an hour. Here, go ahead and play some more.
Once again, I could go over 20 miles an hour.
what a turd.
He's playing my video again. But once again, his producer's not like editing clips and different things. He's just gone to the end of the video now. They just skipped to the end. So you think they would pre-produce this a little bit.
Low warning.
But anyway,
50 miles remaining. Are you kidding me?
There's my
That's almost
face on
90 miles of
InfoWars.
range in 30 miles? Are you serious? That's nuts.
Okay,
What
that's
a
good.
joke.
So later he's able to get it up, I guess, going partially downhill to 40.
so he's able to see the speedometer and he realizes I'm going much faster than what he originally said. So he's saying, well, now I got a downhill stretch, so I'm able to go 40, which is Whatever, man.
They use 90 miles of energy in just a few miles.
Oh, finally he gets it.
It's an absolute total disaster. A Volkswagen towing a trailer with that weight would do a better job. A Volkswagen Beetle. I mean, this is an insane disaster. Go see it for yourself. Popular YouTuber tests Ford EV pickup towing capacity. It fails spectacularly. Hell, some golf carts have better power. Okay, I'm going to come back with more of these clips that tie it all together.
So yeah, that's why I went viral. So you can imagine my disappointment, which yes, I am guilty of sensationalizing things a little bit, clickbaiting. Oh, it was a total disaster. Well, it did the job. The range was just much shorter, and that's how you get views on YouTube. But getting it spun for political purposes or disinformation, or maybe it's satire. Maybe Alex Jones is satirizing the thing, which, you know, you can't really tell with him sometimes. It sucked. And of course, all this bad press got the attention of, well, Ford right there. So then I hear from Emma Berg, the director of EV communications at Ford, who saw this, saw my video, and well, she wanted to talk to me. It turns out it was all very nice, and she had shared her own information about towing with an electric EV. She told me that the engineers were very disappointed and sad with my video, which, I mean, I totally get it, but obviously, there's no getting around the limitations. If you do drive this thing at a very low speed, well lower than the interstate speed limits, you'll get much, much better range, which is something JR Garage, to follow up my video, demonstrated with their truck. They have the extended range battery. They drove it very conservatively, 50 to 60 miles per hour tops, a short distance, but if it did the same way the entire distance of a 5,000-pound trailer, they would have gotten 250 miles of range in a truck that could do mid 300s. But another thing to highlight with their video, they said towing with their EV, their electric pickup truck, was a huge success. That was the title. The video showed how good the truck can do if you drive it very, very conservatively. And it's easily their least watched video in over a year. That's even with this one blowing up on the internet. Their video being positive got absolutely no views. And that's the sad part, the way the world works. And well, I should be thankful in some ways because it's how my YouTube channel exists. My cars, they break, they blow up, bad things happen, and you all want to watch that. You all really don't watch my videos if I buy something and only good, amazing things happen. You're here for carnage. And with that, I'm now just going to talk about the truck itself and the things that I like and the things that I don't like about it. But overall, it is very positive. I really like this thing. And yes, there are limitations to electric cars. Is it insurmountable that we'll overcome them? I don't know. I don't think so. But right now, there are some issues. So let's go over them. I have to say, the first thing I love about the Ford Lightning pickup truck is the styling. Yes, it is futuristic with the crazy light bar, but otherwise it looks like a normal Ford truck. I don't know why EV designers are trying so hard to make their cars look like they belong in a Tron video or so far into the future, and they just look weird. And there are some cool examples from Hyundai, and the Tesla Cybertruck does look absolutely crazy and cool, but for the most part, if you're making an electric vehicle and you need to make it more affordable, just use an existing platform like this, which is why the F-150 Lightning is such a game changer. Same with the Ford Maverick. For like low $20,000 range, you get a hybrid pickup truck that can do high 30 mile per gallon, but they can't make them quickly enough because of supply chain making enough batteries. I tried to get one of those, and the salesman told me that they literally have millions of orders that they'll be fulfilling for years and years, so they're not opening it back up anytime soon. So getting this Lightning, well, even half of it, I was very, very fortunate. So I love the styling, and I love the capacity of this thing. It's just like a normal truck, but you get even more because there's no engine. You get a frunk on top of the tailgate. So the storage and practicality is just absolutely unreal. And overall, the quality of this truck is really nice compared to Fords of old. The cheap plastics are well disguised. The quality of it, it does look really, really nice in my opinion. The screens are very cool. And the seats in the interior and the ride are very comfortable, heated and ventilated. You see the perforation there. They actually broke up the perforation as a design element. It is really, really neat, but the coolest part definitely is the way it drives. The silence of EVs, but the instant torque, which Alex Jones said this thing has no torque. Well, it's there. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm going over the speed limit right there. The 0 to 60 on these things is absolutely insane. I think with the big battery, it's something like 3.9 seconds the quarter mile. In the 12s or 13s, which is super, super impressive for a big, gigantic truck, which rides so dang nice thanks to the independent front and rear suspension. I also really like the infotainment system. That's one place Ford has come such a long way with. If you think their old sync system from 10 years ago and it being the laughingstock of automotive journalists, well, now it is among the best. It's not clunky at all. I've never seen a single glitch with this thing. It is just really, really good. Now, it is a lot of screens, but the screens are clean, they're simple, very intuitive, and they even gave you a knob. So I don't think the screen needs to be nearly that big, but I get it. They got to be like Tesla, the giant iPads glued to the screen. That's what the kids want these days, so that's what we got. But it's not super intrusive or clunky at all. Now, as for the bad things, I've already hit on the top two a lot with 2 videos now. It's the range with towing. It is very, very bad if you drive it like a normal truck, not thinking about running out of range, which is what I did in the video, but also the charging. Charging can take a very, very long time, especially if you can't find a fast charger, something that JR Garage encountered in their videos with their Lightning pickup truck because they drove it 1,000 miles cross country, and sometimes they had to sit and wait basically overnight because a fast charger wasn't available for them in the sticks in the middle of nowhere. But like I said, the infrastructure bill, they're supposedly going to fix all of that. Now, if there's one driving characteristic I don't like, it's the steering. I get that it's a big pickup truck, but you now have electric power steering, and it could be, well, less trucky. You could make it less heavy, and as you go into the turns a little harder, a little stiffer. It's like they're trying to simulate what an old truck should feel like, what a truck should feel like, when they could just have modern, easy, zippy steering in this thing, but maybe that's for safety so you don't just whip the wheel and roll this thing over. I'm not sure, but I feel like it could be a little bit tighter in that department, but it sure does ride nice. With the infotainment and the range thing like I was talking about, I sure do wish that they had a percentage of battery, not just the range. So when it came to my video, I'm talking about it using 150 miles of range and 64 miles. Well, like what percentage is that? If there was a percentage there or an option to change it to that, which I don't believe there is, then we would know it used, well, 60-70% of its battery to go 64 miles. We would know a lot better. I just feel like I would like to have that. And the final thing, well, it does have to do with the screens and all this stuff in the truck and its long-term practicality. I talked about the Tesla and the batteries failing after 10 years. Even non-electric cars, all these screens are going to fail. They do fail in the Teslas, they do fail in the older vehicles with the older screens. My 2000 BMW M5 with the old liquid crystal screen has a bunch of dead spots in it. With a car where you're dependent on screens for speed and that kind of stuff, when this stuff fails, and if it's gonna cost like $5 or $7 grand to replace these things, it's gonna suck. It really is going to suck to have to repair these things. So with this huge tech comes a huge price, and affordability is already a huge issue with used cars, the biggest driver of inflation. And I kind of feel like my son will be the last generation that will be able to buy a hoopty. So sort of like my grandparents coming back from World War II, they could buy like a 32 Ford and build it into a hot rod. My dad being able to buy and hop up, say, an old muscle car from the 60s. My generation being able to do tuners and imports, you know, building up a BMW or a Japanese, like a Toyota Supra or something like that. My kid, who is currently 2 years old, he will be the last generation of someone being able to buy cars that he'll be able to do that. In 10, 20 years, if everything is electric and as complicated as this, there's not going to be hoopties out there because all the cars will be dead and not practical to repair, and they won't be modding them either because, I mean, what, we're going to hack the software, we're going to change the drive motors, upgrade the batteries? That's not going to be a thing kids will be doing in their garage at home. It's too complicated, too dangerous, unless I'm just a caveman not thinking towards the future. But I don't think that's the case, and it actually makes me kind of sad. The days of hoopties are ending. And with that,
Thank you for watching.